everyone, this is Sukanya.
I'm Shriya.
And we are back with yet another episode of Intersectional Feminism Desi Style, Season 3, brought to you by Feminism in India.
Sukanya, while we, most of us are big fans of cinema here, and I would say majority of the population is engaging with cinema in some form or the other, in some form of movie or the other, but we are molded, our perception, our thinking about cinema, about movies is molded in such a way that we see a movie for what is being shown on the screen rather than what is off it. We do not try to engage with the people working behind the scenes, off the camera. It's more like, okay, we're watching the hero and the heroine and the rest of the cast and all of that. We're engaging with that. And yes, while it is also the way our society has been molded to see it, but it's been going on for a while. And I think one of the key people that work on making a movie what it is are the cinematographers. And it being a technical field, obviously there's a gender bias that prevails and sort of overshadows a lot of work that is being done, a lot of conversation. So, in today's episode, that is one of the things that we're going to discuss with our guest.
Yes, so to take forward this discussion, we have with us today a cinematographer and director with a rich body of work to her credit. She's an alumnus of the Film and Television Institute of India. She started her career as an assistant to PC Sreeram, and she made her debut as an independent camera person with the film Mitr, My Friend, which was directed by Revathi, along with an all-female technical crew. She's also the first ever independent woman cinematographer in Malayalam cinema, as well as the force behind the Indian Women Cinematographers Collective. We are very, very, very humbled and very excited to welcome to this episode cinematographer, director, and academician Fowzia Fathima. Hi, Fowzia. Thank you so much for being with us today. Warm welcome.
Thank you, Sukanya. I'm so happy to be part of this transformational work that you're engaging in. It's a good session to be part of, and it's an honor. It's great to reach out.
Thank you so much, Fowzia, for joining us. So I'll begin with the question straight away. My first question to you would be like, cinematography itself is a very technical field, as we know. It is a technical field. Of course, it's a creative field as well, but it's also technical. And in a way, a lot of women are not expected and also not encouraged to take up that job or take up a technical job, and because it's considered women are bad at tech, or they are technologically challenged or everything. So could you elaborate on what prompted you to choose this line and how your journey has been so far?
Basically, I'm a student of art, so I entered the visual media studying history of art and working with artists, and I did my master's in art criticism from Baroda, MS University. It was then that an exposure to film club activity in our campus, Fine Arts Film Club, which brought films from the archives, Pune archives, and had serious screenings and good discussions very, very periodically, and gave me an introduction to the world of artistic cinema. And like any other child, I mean, growing up, I was quite exposed to and very part of the film culture, especially in growing in Chennai. And with the whole load of the imaginary world, very active and little over the top actually, films, over the top films, and that's the staple diet of film goers majorly. And in that scenario, getting exposure to serious cinema gave me a notion of cinema can be art, and it can be very artistic. It's definitely the prime factor in considering cinema in a serious way, that yes, it could be a medium. And another thing that I was in my undergrad studying art history. I was also in National Cadet Corps, NCC, Air Cadet. I was an Air Wing Cadet, and I had been doing gliding, and I got my private pilot license. I was flying Cessna. And so my 18, 19, 20 that time was like art, studying art and practicing art, and also going for flying and being with the aircraft. And so I was very satisfied, and I needed the balance of the science of it and the art of it, and so that gave me a confidence, and also clarity that yes, technical medium like cinematography, which blends whatever the science part of it and the aesthetics, the human element, and which becomes a uh, really uh, crucial factor to recognizing in oneself, like whether the choice of medium is favoring our inner being. And I was very clear that yes, this is it. So it was after my master's that that was 1995, 100 years of cinema, and I gave a shot at FTI. uh, it was very demanding and also very challenging, because as predecessors, the examples that were quoted to me during the interview process, people who did not pursue the medium after studies. So there was a notion that women waste the seat, and there wasn't either. I was actually challenged, like they have gone off into documentary filmmaking and just faded away, or I mean, left the medium. This literally prompted me, like challenged me to see that in the institution, the number of say from the beginning of the institute, like in that time, like 50 years, 60 years of its existence, say for example, 1,000 men have been young people have been given chance to study there, and probably out of the 1,000 who have men who have studied, maybe 100 have become superstars or really shown in their medium. So the institution has given an opportunity for 1,000 men so that 100 could shine. How many women have you given an opportunity to say that no, 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 they won't be good, they'll waste the seat? You're hardly giving them a chance. And then in a diminishing, scenario, you're already saying that, oh, it's not going to, they won't be able to make it. So sheer virtue of numbers, they are disadvantaged. And I quoted this. I mean, I very spontaneously I said that since you haven't been giving women a chance, it's by time that you start giving more women a chance, and then you say that whether it's so you have to give me a seat. I will do cinematography, only cinematography and nothing but cinematography. I literally took an oath, and it was for me a crystallizing of my own, I had no idea actually at that point what it meant and what it was. It's just the possibility of the medium, no, artistic possibility that moved me, and knowing that yeah, science and art coexistence and mutually working together is what is going to satisfy me. Keep putting this to work. So I was very adamant and said, you have to give me a seat, and I will do this. That kind of a thing became a sense of responsibility in my mind, and everything I did in my course of study and also later, always I had a feeling that it's going to be like people are going to talk about it. One more girl has. So I was very, very keen that I shouldn't be setting a wrong example, or it shouldn't deter the people who come after me. The next, it was such a sense of responsibility that I made sure that no way, no light would I bring a shadow onto the future of women in the field. And that was the spirit for me, actually. So I was very persistent in after finishing to work with a mentor like PC Sreeram, who has a great record of how he grooms, and the people who work with him, how they have actually um, done established themselves very well. That was a motivation, and I started working. I mean, and it was a very interesting school for me because being a very great human being, it was, an opportunity to work beyond the gender confines, and it was very interesting and challenging, and it gave away, like, yes, I could be myself in a filmmaking space, in a production space. And so that was a time also when I got my first break. In fact, through him, when Revathi had approached, and it led to Mitr, my friend, and I came onto the project and getting to know that the writers were women, and also she was planning to bring the Bhavatarani, I mean, music director also. And me coming onto the project as a DOP, I got very excited. I said, we are really looking at a situation of an all-women crew, because we have, from institute, I have seen my classmates, sound engineers and editors and production people, and we all, I mean, we are a huge batch of women in that time. So I was very confident that if we really little bit look out, we could get, the rest of the crew positions also. And in fact, that's how all women crew thing happened. And the spirit of, being aware that what I do is going to be that continued and persisted, and it led to a point where in 2015 I was very conscious about having seen women in the field, and girls in the classes. I've been doing workshops and being in academic, constantly seeing, at least there will be one or two girls in every batch in summer. And then you see that, oh, after a decade of being in the field, I feel, yeah, there should be, not just in this institute, there should be in others, and there should be. So thinking about this over and over, I felt that it's time that, unlike the camaraderie and the connectivity that the men practice, and it's quite easy, the really male bonding and the boys club that happens, we are not exploring our own abilities of networking and mutual support that we could provide each other. And so that prompted me to propose the idea of, in fact, it was called Association of Indian Women Cinematographers. That was my first idea, and I floated a Facebook group and reached out to some of my cinematographers, female friends, and it just like it was the time for the idea had come. I mean, it just sparked excitement, and we just connected. And from a Facebook group, it we over a 2-year period, like by 2017, we went all out and launched in a renamed way, Indian Women Cinematographers Collective, with a bigger and larger number of women from across the country. So it was even, I mean, further on also, it just brought to the notion to the forefront that women working wherever they were always had the sense of isolation, and always had this feeling that probably they were the only ones struggling. Whereas once we got into the collective, you realize that, oh man, most of us are in the same state of mind, and we really stand to benefit in so many ways by sharing things which are normally women are not expected to be, such open-hearted and large-hearted people. Our collective just breaks that bias and notion of that also. No, it's not that. The passion for the medium and our work is far more than an empathy, basically.
Absolutely, and it's also so wonderful that you speak about, I mean, from the beginning of the conversation, how you have used the term a blending of aesthetics and technique, and also you speak about empathy, and all of this really comes together and sort of talks about the underlying politics of art. And when we talk about visual expression, I think lensing is something that is so important and so spoken about whenever we speak about anything that's got to do with the visual medium. So one thing that we always discuss when we address gender in visual arts is definitely the male gaze. So do you feel that having non-male individuals behind the camera impacts this politics of gaze? How have you've worked with an all-women technical crew, you've also worked with crew members where there are more male members in the crew and everything. So do you feel that having a non-male or a woman behind the camera changes or impacts this politics of the male gaze that we're so used to?
Male gaze is directly controlled by the factors of production. Who's putting the money for what purpose and who's the audience. So whether a male or a female is shooting a film, the demands of the narrative, okay, I'm not talking about aesthetic work, I'm just talking about general mainstream production where your audiences are quite defined, and that from there starts the thing, what is packaged in the film. See, I'm talking as a product. So if the film is written such that it is catering to the male gaze, male in the audience, and it intends to provide what do you call it, titillation and all the consumption of the female body and satisfying the gaze. It is a product designed for the men. And then the demands of the person behind the camera is to fulfill that. And then it's a contractual obligation. So the choice of the person behind the camera, male or female, would be that whether you're aligned to packaging in that way or not. So I have done films where obviously the audience is identified and framed as largely male. Then you really if there is a item number, one can't shy away from that at that point, saying that no, this is not with my politics, because then you're not carrying your politics to the set where you already know that this is the intention of the production and you're signing to fulfill those obligations. It's contractual. So that, in that sense, for me, actually, the male gaze, female gaze is completely controlled by the capital and the production. Actually, what is the purpose of it and how it intends to recover its investment. But then that is one category of films. Probably that's the most popular and the farthest reach, and it's meant to titillate and it's meant to satisfy that mind. And then there are, without specific framework like this, films which have a narrative which stands on its own. I mean, it's a film for its narrative. Then probably the male gaze, female gaze element comes into play. Again, it's the empathy of the DOP. Even a male DOP could actually align with the sensibility of female characters of the script, and how we can't remove the director from the whole scene. The stand of the director and how the director wants to convey, or what's the director's relationship with the characters are. So I feel that it's a much more nuanced investigation of the gaze. It's simpler when you actually, even if it's a women crew and doing women director making a subject, if the the filmmaker is again catering to to the male audience, because it's not necessarily that all women are woke and all women technicians or filmmakers or directors are looking at female point of view or female gaze. Not necessary. So a woman can also be very patriarchal and look at women because most women have been like that, and it takes something drastic to actually turn around from the patriarchal mindset and from their own internalized male gaze. So it needs something else. So in women filmmakers also, there are, you can see in films where it is catering to the male gaze. So it depends on the director and the approach that the director has, and probably we should look out for feminist directors, male or female. So that would probably require a male or female behind the camera to actually approach the content in a way that is reordering the gaze itself. I have recently we have done a production. I've worked with my partner. It's a Malayalam feature film called Khadi Show, The Sacred, and it's a it's a interesting for me. The gaze as the how humanist and how empathetic can the camera be, not male female. I mean, I'm just going beyond the binary of male and female. I think that is also passive.
Right, Fowzia. Also, like you mentioned that, like taking from what one of the things that you mentioned is a lot of the decisions about the gaze is taken by where the capital is coming from, where the investment is coming from, and the politics of the person who is investing or who is providing the capital, the director, the producer, and so on and so forth. In this context, what I wanted to ask is, what do you feel are some structural changes that can be incorporated within your workspace, within the industry? When I say workspace, obviously I mean industry, to ensure a sort of gender equitable, gender justice when it comes to people in the technical field in the industry.
See, the fear probably people will, again, and you see mainstream, the majority of production producers are men making content for men. So in that, if women are trying to actually function as technicians, it is a difficult space. You have to cross over that mindset, which looks at women only in a certain way.
Right.
So one starts looking for alternate spaces and probably independent cinema and other productions, or those who are aware and a minority who are sensitized and who would look for specifically, again, it could come from the theme of the film and maybe a woman could do justice to it. So it becomes a very, very small and very minority situation, actually, the opportunities for women to get into that, productions. So it is a difficult task. It needs more artistic work coming up, which can change the, perception.
Right.
Then the development of more people having confidence to engage in the cinema in a very in a different way with a different gaze. So maybe in this a very clear agenda, if say the distributors or the right now with the opening of OTT, people are sensitized in that corporate sector, at least, that yes, if you support this kind of productions and women technicians, there will be an audience for it. Women should support women also in a large way.
Do you see that change happening? Do you feel like there is that change that is coming now with the OTT, like you mentioned, coming into the
change is certainly happening, but in very small pockets.
Right.
It is very, very small pockets, and then if you are in an insider of that, then it becomes a privileged among the privileged. So that also deters the freshers, newcomers, and people to enter into the space, even if it is a female supportive space, it becomes very small and it's very clique or small groups. I don't want to say clique because it's an important thing that they do also. It is a few people get into that. So there is lot of scope for opening up in content creation and accessibility for new people to enter into that space. It's very small and very controlled. Yeah, there's a lot of scope for it. Yeah.
So when we speak about this being a controlled space, like change happening in a very scattered manner, etc., I think recently there was this report survey by Film Companion on the representation of women in films, and um, a massive, 92% of the technical departments in films are held by men, and the lowest representation, which is 2%, was for women in cinematography. It was reportedly the least gender inclusive space. So even in 2022, when we're making films on women's issues and women empowerment, and there's this whole buzz around women-centric films and everything, within the system, do you feel there's, what is the sort of structural lack that you would identify within this system? Because when we look at this whole process as an outsider or as a film goer, there is a perception among the general audience that things are changing in a larger momentum, and that content is being produced that is more diverse, and we see more different kinds of bodies on screen, and different kinds of actors, and different kinds of things are being explored. But then when we look at the actual representation of women technicians or non-male technicians in the filmmaking or visual media, it's still very low. And on the outside of it, we have all these conversations and all this opening up also that's happening. So inside this, within these intersections, what do you feel could be done better to sort of make this more accessible? How have you navigated this bias or this structural problem that have you faced it? I'm assuming you have, and how have you personally navigated it?
For me, it's been 2 decades of being around and making choices. And experience-wise, it's it's uphill. It's an uphill task. It's good you can talk to people, but whether it would convert into a project. So it's not easy. It's what to say. It actually provoked me to start doing things on my own. I have discussions with my friends, and I've been told straight away, Fowzia, nobody's going to call you. If you want to shoot, make your own film. It's that bad in a way, but then it's very good because it pushes you to look at alternate ways to achieve. You want to work, make the work happen. So that's been my motivation and motto, because it just doesn't work. Therefore, it's made me do my own productions, and I'm very seriously into producing also, because for me that seems to be the way forward, And I know that some of my women colleagues, cinematographers, have also been toying with this and are exploring producing their own content, getting involved in producing so that they will get a chance to shoot the film. So all talk is good. Film Companion says 2%, and Film Companion itself, how deep is their investigation to figure out how many women are around? I think there is a gap there itself. It doesn't reflect. So there's a lot of scope for changing, even among people who talk change.
I'm just very curious about something now that you say this. You also spoke about how the collective for cinematographers that you have helmed and are part of is also about the coming together of a lot of individuals with empathy, and also listening to how the inside up, how daunting this task is for you every day, for women, for non-male individuals every day. I'm just very curious. I hope this is okay to ask, but do you feel lonely? I mean, how do you how do you preserve the empathy and the passion for your work that you still have, and despite having to push back so hard, and how do you find those solidarities, and just the just how do you just not manage to feel lonely in the middle of all this?
Oh, the loneliness is what prompted the collective. So post that, at least there is a sisterhood and hand holding, and at least you can vent out and also reach out for support, whether it is technical or production support amongst the collective members in the collective. So the loneliness is kind of mitigated in one sense, because professionally, yes, we have a collective which is a very safe and open space, and it has generated a lot of conversations about these specific issues, including especially during COVID, and uh, emotional and mental support that the mm, collective could create for itself and engage with other professionals. We had a lot of talks on Insta and engage with other women, professionals. So there's constantly the thing to keep the our very natural spirit and drive alive. And the point about it is that it is very few who are actually functioning in big productions, but there are plenty who are doing in alternate and in documentary space and advertisements, where there is a difference in the mindset, and it's more about who's able to give the give the best in the time that's given. That kind of technical expertise, there is value for it, and there are more women functioning in that space. So as a collective, it's a very nurturing and safe and supportive space. So that element of loneliness we have kind of within us, solidarity, of that feeling has kind of mitigated it. But in terms of the general professional space, what can I say? You just become more resourceful and create your own path. It's valid for every individual. It's valid for every individual, and it's not easy, and nobody gives it to you on a platter.
Right, Fowzia. Like, I think one final sort of question that I would want to ask, and I think I speak for Sukanya and myself and a lot of other people who would be listening to us, is what would be your message to all the young women and non-male individuals who aspire to join the industry as filmmakers, as cinematographers, visual artists, and so on, especially when it comes to navigating this gender bias which exists within the industry, which you've also faced while you were studying and while you have also worked, like you mentioned in the beginning. So what is that message that you would want to tell these people who aspire to enter the industry while knowing that there is this bias?
My take would be that, in different mediums at different points in time, there had been bias against women. And it's just sheer number which has tilted the table. Say, for instance, in medicine, there was a time where there weren't enough women professionals, say. But now, a doctor, a woman, or a male, it's not it doesn't come, you don't think twice. It's their expertise and the experience. So it's taken, 5 decades or 6,
Right.
7 decades. So that is one positive thing that I would look at. Yeah. It is one's calling, and if one has figured that, yes, this is where I want to be and this is where I want to thrive, then with that spirit, one should just move forward and engage with the medium in their own way and make their own path, because every individual becomes a pioneer in their own lives and make their own ways. But then the more are there, the more common it becomes, means um, yeah, it should come to a point where it shouldn't matter anymore. And it's just the sheer body of work and number of people, women who are practicing it, would over a period of, whatever, in foreseeable future, it should become like a non-issue. Hopefully, I'm being very idealistic and optimistic, but then it's
Fingers
just
crossed.
sheer.
I think, Fowzia, as we come to the end of this conversation, I'm really, there are a lot of things that I will definitely take away, and I'm sure I speak for Shriya as well. But you just said that every individual is a pioneer when it comes to realizing that, making things happen for them. And that's so political, and that's so personal and emotional, and that's so true when we look at it in the gender context. And you also spoke about how sisterhood and solidarities and collectives help to navigate the sort of loneliness that comes through when you feel like you are being closed in on by a structure that's so oppressive and so unfair. I mean, so many things about this conversation feel personal and political and so endearing to me. I'm so thankful that we could have this conversation. I'm so thankful that you have been so open, and you have not sugar-coated anything. I mean, it's very I'm very overwhelmed at this point. I'm very happy that we could have this conversation. It's been very insightful, and it's been very kind of you to give us this sort of time. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure entirely, anytime, because I, for one, have realized that uh, softening one's inner insight so that it's palatable to the other is passe. One doesn't need to do that. And it's better that we speak our truth and let the other person handle the discomfort. Thank you, Sukanya. Let the change happen.
I think it's a great way to end this episode with what you said, let the change happen. And I think all of us are vouching for that, fighting for that in our own ways. Thank you so much, Fowzia, once again. That's all for today. We'll be back with yet another episode of Intersectional Feminism Desi Style Season 3 on your favorite streaming platforms next Thursday. Till then, stay tuned and stay safe. Bye.